Dominant win from Red Bull. Mercedes is back. And most importantly, Barcelona doesn't suck as a track anymore. It is episode 106 of the Eaton Asphalt podcast. Well, I mean, we said it in the intro, but this track kind of rules now.
I said it on my ground preview, and you were like, "Oh, I don't know. Everyone doesn't like it," and I was right.
I don't remember that, but I'm sure it happened. Yeah, that like taking out that chicane right before all the chicanes before long straights should just be taken out if that's the result we get. Man, lot to get to that I'm excited for. I think this one might be a little longer than we anticipate, or longer than we anticipate for like a race recap. But let's get started into it. Got our good, bad, and ugly, our gambling paddock, our race recap, and our race predictions recap. Let's get right into it with our good, bad, and ugly. All right, Marco, you start us off with our GBU.
I believe it's your turn.
Okay, I can start us off. So my good, it's what I said at the beginning. Barcelona being a fun track now is like kind of a game changer because they use this track to test in the winter. But the fact that it's a cool track now. I mean, that's like definitely top like half of the races that we've had in terms of entertainment. That's just awesome. Not sure why they had that chicane there in the beginning because there's like a very clear outline of what the track normally looked like before they put that chicane in. But overall, bad idea. Seems obvious in retrospect to take that sucker out. Good tire degradation that kind of like made it interesting in the pit stops. I think overall it was just like a brilliant decision. I don't know. I don't know why the state was the way it was beforehand, but now that it's not, it's like brilliant job.
Yeah, and it's like great where if a certain team is very strong in a certain aspect on a track, like a track is very, downforce heavy, something like that, or like high speed corners, they're going to excel in it just because this is so overall like pretty even distributed in so many aspects of racing. I think it does make it very compelling. Like we saw in quals, like quals was just kind of a crapshoot the entire like each session. So yeah, very even, and it allows teams to really like go after each other.
Yeah, agreed. My bad is going to be Aston Martin's morale after this weekend. I think they got out to a good lead early on in the season, but Mercedes look quick now, which is, I think, a little bit of a monkey wrench in those plans of P2 and the constructors. Hamilton seemed pretty optimistic. He was on his post-race press interview. He was wearing glasses inside, so already cool guy Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, yeah, if your car's good in Spain, it usually means that it's good like most other places. And so like, we're really excited about this. And Mercedes are known for sandbagging. He's known for being kind of like, so like kind of like too realistic, like, oh, well, it's never done. So seeing him confident, I think that's got to send some unpleasant shockwaves throughout the green garage.
Yeah, I mean, he had that glint in his eyes. Like after that race, he was happy. That was the Lewis that we've seen the last couple of years, and it was good to see back.
Yeah, he was smiling. He and Max were joking. Anytime Max and Lewis are like buddy together, it kind of breaks my brain a little bit. I'm like, I think you guys are supposed to hate each other.
Yeah, I am curious about that dynamic. The Mercedes Red Bull dynamic, it just seems like depends on the day. They'll be fake as hell towards each other, and then other days they'll like show their true colors. This was the fake as hell day.
Yeah, definitely. And then my ugly McLaren hopes. I think I always get a little demoralized after like most of the races recently, like honestly in the last like year and a half. But this one hurt extra bad because I tricked myself into thinking like Lando's going to be like up there. Like Lando's going to be fighting. His car's quick. He put it on P3, second row. When was the last time McLaren had a second row start?
Yeah.
So yeah, got me really excited. And then it lasted about a lap before he was down in last place with some front wing damage. So yeah, I think if there was going to be a time to like make up the ground that we lost to Alpine last time around, this one could have been a really good opportunity starting from P3, but it's the season. That's our season. Maybe the rest of my life is how it's going to be.
Yeah, well, I am in pretty much the same boat, so I feel your pain.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you go ahead with your good, bad, and ugly then. I'm
All
assuming
right.
it's kind of different, the bad and the ugly.
Yeah, my
Same.
good is going to be a car upgrade that actually upgraded the car. Because we talk about this all the time. It's just like the typical upgrade. We don't say anything. And then on to the next team with an upgrade. We don't see anything. So Mercedes, the hard work over the factory the last past few months certainly paid off. They were able to show improvements with their massive upgrades. I mean, obviously they were deployed in Monaco. They're like, if you have an upgrade, no matter what team, you're not going to really see the true results of that upgrade in Monaco. So this weekend, I know this is a very small sample size, but it did show that they clearly were the second quickest car this weekend. The actual race pace, you're getting excited. Hey, look at them coming up. The race pace compared to Red Bull just was not even close still. But they are saying like potentially, hey, there is room for improvement. But I mean, obviously, when you're 24 seconds behind the race winner, you still got a long ways to go to make it competitive for trying to win the Drivers' Constructors Championship. But just a very positive sign from a pretty meek start for the Mercedes garage.
Yeah. In that same post race presser that they asked him like, "Is this the best your car's felt in like a year and a half, Lewis?" And he was like, "Yeah." Like, what are you talking about? He's like, "I've been driving a piece of shit for the last like
The
18."
porpoising issue for 90% of the season last year. So yeah, like it took them 3/4 of the season to stop that at least.
Do you remember when my neck almost broke every race? Yeah, that car wasn't better than
Yeah,
this.
I think we're positive here, boys. All right, my bad is going to be being too nice. So also something that we mentioned a lot over the past couple months. Fernando Alonso has been on a hero arc that we have just not seen in the sport. From a guy who constantly threw digs at other drivers, had issues with teammates everywhere he went. He's now one of the most lovable drivers of 2023. He is giving compliments to teammates and competitors, being ultra friendly to reporters. He's watering flowers when he's just out there hanging out. So, I mean, he's just got like the Fernando, I mean, he's got the Sebastian Vettel kind of arc of like, hey, he's the older driver. What a great guy. And he's also actually driving very well, unlike something that we saw with him the last couple of years. So, just being too nice. I think like we're getting to a point where it's just too much. On Sunday, Alonso settled for seventh place rather than fighting for his teammates for sixth. Alonso noted that he did not want to battle due to worrying of the damaging the floor, something he did in qualifying the day before. I have a different take. I mean, obviously, I think they fixed the damage on the bottom of the floor. Like I feel like that's kind of a cop out, being like, oh, I didn't want to try very hard because it could happen again. I mean, it could happen to any driver that is pushing too hard. So my take is Alonso has just been annihilating Stroll in every aspect this year, controlling a vast majority of the team's points. I think he's doing this for two reasons. One, make Lawrence happy for not just stepping on his son's throat, showing that he's not a great driver. I think this is probably like some weird tension going between like the fans probably ripping on him, people saying like he's not a great driver, and to kind of let him like show that he does show something. Hey, he's competing with Alonso. Is great to see. Alonso is just clearly the number one guy on the team, and if he were to show that Stroll isn't strong enough to have a seat at Aston, they bring in new blood. And then it could be like, hey, shit, maybe I'm not the new guy. Maybe this new guy comes in. It's a threat to me. So by allowing Stroll to get a win every now and then increases the chances of keeping him on the team and asserting that Alonso remains the head honcho. So I think this is kind of like hey, this sport is about beating your teammate. That is, everyone says, the number one goal to do, not giving out handouts. And I feel like this was as big of a handout as possible. He had new, fresher tires on him. He was gaining time on him, and he just clearly said, hey, I'm backing off. Tell Stroll not to worry. We're good here. So I think, as nice as he's been going and as much as I've been enjoying off the track, you got to show and continue to keep that competitiveness on the track.
Yeah, I agree. It was like, that Simpsons meme that's like, stop, he's already dead.
Yeah.
I think like if Fernando would have passed Lance and then gapped him by like 4 or 5 seconds, then that would have probably been like, oh,
yeah.
Dude, you don't want to send him into his dad, just get bent over and spanked with a belt.
Yeah, first time in this year that he beats him in quali, and then he just goes, "Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter. I'll still beat you. It doesn't matter. I'll mess up my car on Saturday. I'll still beat you Sunday." So yeah, I think a little bit of pandering for old Lawrence. So quit that shit. All right, my ugly is trusting the process. While Mercedes car upgrades bode promise, Ferrari still needs some major work. Both Charles and Sainz, difficult weekends. with Charles having significant issues during quals, causing him to start P19. Little improvement allowed him to finish P11, but just major issues needing to be fixed. Sainz did the best he could, starting second. They did like a very risky play here to start on soft. They were hoping that that would allow him to get in front of Max on turn one. It didn't pan out, and they just kind of put him in a tough position. Starting in soft, he was really left with so much of the race just with this strategy play to just manage his tires. Spain is also a high degradation track. To begin with, Ferrari car continues to be a car that struggles with tire degradation, tracks with high-speed corners, something that Spain has as well. So he went on to say, I trust that what we did here was the right direction. Now we need to start addressing our weaknesses with the bouncing, with the high speed, and with the new package and direction. And hopefully we can start bringing performance. So he's like, hey, we're doing great. We just need to do this and this and this and this. And we got it figured out. So that is just, I'm starting to lose trust in the process. It doesn't seem like they have a direction, or they're like, hey, there's promise, there's light at the end of the tunnel. And I'm going to follow this up with his teammate, just unsure, like I said, saying, I don't understand what we are doing wrong, but we are doing something wrong. So I think Sainz is trying to take the positive route on this. I think Leclerc has just gotten a shittier hand this entire year, and it's hard for him to keep that positivity. And having someone like Javi and as his strategist would be infuriating. So yeah, I understand where Leclerc is coming from. Tough.
We'll talk more about Ferrari. I got some thoughts. All right. Well, that's our good, bad, and ugly. Now let's move on to our gambling paddock.
Hey, my favorite sector.
Okay. So do you want to go first?
No, dude, I would love to hear you go first.
Dude, I'm like Ferrari right now, where not Ferrari. I'm like Mercedes, where I'm not winning, you know what I'm saying, but I'm on the right trajectory. So I've been losing about $40. Again, if you're not caught up on our gambling paddock, we started with $500. We have a $20 unit, and I last go around bet on a Max win at minus 250 and Alonso podium at minus 145. So I didn't lose both of them. And instead of walking away with negative $40 from a weekend, I'm only negative 12 for a weekend, which is a massive improvement if you think about it.
That's huge. Could you if you extrapolate this for the next, I don't know, rest of the season, you're fucking golden.
Dude, I might only be losing like $1 a race.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that you're like, hey, I can't keep doing this plus money shit. I'm gonna keep them pretty safe. Of course, dude. Of course. Closest.
We'll get into race predictions after, but I mean, it's just like, I think I'm holding some like power, honestly, right now, of like anything that I say out loud that I'm gambling on, it like can't happen. But
I've been saying for weeks, but I'm like typing up the episode to go into podcasting. I'm like, fade him, fade Ian. It's like 3 in a row. I'm like, dude, everyone, you are missing out on some serious capital. Bet against whatever he says. I would love to go back and just have someone like go through all your bets, do the opposite, and what you'd be at actually. Yeah, I know a lot of it would be like, they would be not like great odds, maybe, because some of yours were kind of outlandish. But I mean, they would be doing pretty well.
Yeah. Well, all I know is I tried going negative. It didn't really work out, and I'm down again. So I think we might go positive next time.
Flip, flop, flip. All right. Well, my turn. I went with the Mercedes double top 6 finish at minus 150. Hit that pretty easily, and then the winning margin over 10 seconds plus 105. Smash that. So I got a total of 34 points or $34 over the weekend, starting with 542. I'm at 576. So almost 4 units on the season, which I'm cruising.
You're doing good. You're doing good. I want to. So yeah, we'll have Bella. We'll put the graphic up here. But for the folks keeping track at home, Marco does not have double the money that I have yet. So.
What? Pardon?
You don't have double my money.
Oh, okay. I thought you said you doubled your money. I was like, dude, brother, what am I going? What's going on? Yeah, not yet. Yeah, and to be honest, I got to keep remembering that I do have 3 outstanding bets that will be settled soon
Can
by the
we
end
do
of
a
the
quick
season.
check in on those? How are those doing?
Yeah, I don't know.
I want to.
The DeVries one is probably. I mean, these are all going to be in the ballpark. George to no Lewis over George, which is looking good.
Is
Or
it?
did I do?
Yeah, George over Lewis,
Okay, that's fine.
Piastri over Lando,
We're there.
Sargent over Albon.
All of them are in striking distance. No one has a huge gap on any of them.
Fair.
You know, one good race from some of them. Sargent, probably not. I can see Piastri sneaking up there if, Lando keeps having his difficulties.
We'll see. All right, that's enough gambling. Let's move on to our race recap.
All right, starting with Saturday, our quali. By far this year, the most entertaining quali that we got to see. I know we talked about this a little earlier, but I mean, just so much surprises on each of the sessions. Talking just kind of about the highlights. Pierre, the Alpine team, fantastic. They I think finished was 4th and 7th in quals. Obviously, Pierre had a 6th place grid penalty for impeding on 2 different drivers. So just a tough start for him to finish 4th, start 10th, and end 10th. But that Alpine team, after getting ripped on by their GM, they've started to pick it up. I think they needed a little bit tough love, a little kick in the ass. They're like, okay, we are actually better than what we've been producing. So that's awesome to see. Some not promising things. Charles was out in Q1. He had some issues with the car, was very, very displeased. They ended up I think they fixed them a little bit on Sunday, just not to the degree that the car should be racing in. Then Perez and George out in Q2, a bit of a surprise there. George also had a little bit of a run-in with Lewis. And so that was kind of a bit of a scare. Probably didn't help his chances of getting into Q3, having that little bump in. And then Stroll, like we said, out-qualified Alonso for the first time this season. So it was that. It was, Lando being in the top 3, Carlos, a Ferrari that has been struggling, 2, Pierre at 4. There was just a huge Lance at 6. Like there was just a very unsuspecting quals final session or like entire grid place penalty for the entire qual. So pretty exciting. The only thing that wasn't a surprise was Logan Sargent coming in dead last.
Yeah, tough. Starting to be a pattern.
He's one of those, like, it's starting to turn into our boy a couple of years ago where we've just smashed that last place finish. It's just tough.
You're talking about Nicholas Latifi, I believe.
Well, I was actually not. I was talking about our Russian friend.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was the DNF. Or didn't he either DNF or come in last place in like 40% of the races at one point?
I think he did. I think that was a stat. Yeah, that's. 40%, Mr. Consistent.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Little spin zone for Logan Sargent. He was 1 place behind Charles Leclerc in a Ferrari.
Yeah. Look at that.
Not bad.
Not too shabby.
Okay, let's move on to Sunday then in our top 5 teams in the Constructors' Championship. Starting with Alpine, got 5 points this weekend, 40 points total. Esteban Ocon starting P6, getting bumped down to P8. Pierre Gasly starting P10 after the penalty, right? And then making it up to staying at P10 after. The pace just seemed like it was more friendly for like a 1 lap. Like the quality looked a lot faster than the overall race for them. I think that was kind of like what they were saying, just in general, like in interviews. Gasly obviously just kind of starting the uphill battle with that penalty. So that was tough for him. Overall though, like pretty quiet race outside of some Esteban Ocon moments that I saw that were pretty nice. Like some good battles and some good overtakes, but you probably say that about most of these guys because again, the track is cool now. Barcelona is a cool track. I will say though, as much as we don't get to talk about McLaren anymore. I guess we're just done talking about McLaren for the season. But like I said in my in my ugly for my good bad ugly, McLaren qualling P3 like with Lando, that was exciting. but it had a stain on it because Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly looked very quick. I think Pierre Gasly qualified fourth, right?
Mhm.
Like the fourth fastest. They just got bumped 6 grid spots, which is a weird number of grid spots. I don't know if I've known like a 6-spot grid penalty, but
It was a 3 and 3 for each driver he impeded.
got it. Makes sense. But yeah, overall, I think like as fun as it was to see Lando in P3, it was a little scary to see the Alpines like that consistent, because I thought it was maybe just Monaco, but it is what it is. Good for them. And yeah, that's all
Yeah,
I
I think
think about Alpine.
McLaren has 17 points. So
Yeah.
it's starting to push away a little bit. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I mean, like you said, I think Gasly, that first lap too, like he had the 6th place grid penalty, started off so hard, within 1 lap, had to avoid Perez, had to go in the gravel, dropped down to 14th within 1 lap. So it was similar to Lando, where it's like they're in an unfamiliar position and, like high up in the grid. And then just within that first lap, it's like, fuck, what happened? But yeah, I think like if I'm Alpine, I'm pretty excited over the past 2 weeks what they're producing. Speaking of excitement, we have Ferrari, 100 points, scored 10 big points this weekend. Carlos Sainz P2 to P5, Charles Leclerc P19 up to P11. So I'm just gonna kind of repeat myself a little bit, but like started P19, Leclerc could not get any points, making up to P11. I think, like we said, with this track, some of these, like it's a little bit difficult. I think like everyone's starting to say that the competitive advantage from the upper teams minus Red Bull are starting to like kind of bunch a little bit more to the middle teams. So these, like in the previous years where you're like, hey, Lewis is in P20, he's fighting for P1 at some point. Like I don't think we're going to be seeing this as often with these cars, and how like the competition is getting a little bit tougher. So yeah, he just could not make any points. Like his car was better than Saturday. Obviously, there were some major issues Saturday, but he was just like, there's still stuff that we have to figure out. So just didn't have great pace. Just was kind of slowly, methodically passing, cars here and there throughout the race. And then Sainz. So like we said, they just took the risk of starting on softs, trying to get past Max. It just did not. It was very close. There was, I think, a point before turn 1 that he was in front of him. Max had the inside line and was just able to get through. So it was like, I liked the attempt, but after that, like shit, it didn't work out. We only have a certain amount of time on these tires. You just got to watch them as much as you can. I think he did a very good job at the situation. I think he had a very strong race given the situation he was in, given the car and where it's at. So ending P5 was probably like the best he could have done. But like I said, I just feel like there's a lot more questions than there are answers with this team.
That's fair. Where do you think they finish overall, if you had to put money on it right now?
I've been saying it. It's 4, and I think they're solid 4. Like I think they're going to keep scoring more points than Alpine, maybe not a ton, and they're not going to score for most weeks more points than Aston Martin or Mercedes. So yeah, I think they're sitting at 4 and they're stuck at 4.
Fair enough. I would have said no like 2 races ago.
Yeah, we tried to hype each other up. I was like, McLaren, dude, they're gonna like bounce back. They're gonna fight Alpine, which I still think there's a better chance of that happening than I think Ferrari fighting with any of the 3 teams in front of them.
Strong disagree there.
Really, dude, with Lando getting a P3 in quals, you think like there's enough pace to show that he can put up a time like that.
Points are scored on Sunday, and I don't think that we have the car to score any points on Sunday.
Fair, yeah.
All right. I'm getting, every time we talk about it, my blood pressure goes up. Okay, P3 in the constructors, got Aston Martin taking 14 points from this weekend. Not that much compared to what they're used to. 134 points total on the season. Fernando Alonso making up 1 spot from P8 to P7. Lance Stroll going down 1 spot from P5 to P6. They had degradation problems worse than other teams. I think, again, this goes back to like the track, just because it was quicker and because you have that longer turn right before the end straight. It was just like harder on the tires. Talked about it a little bit, but the old Fernando Alonso, good guy, of telling Lance, he was like, hey, tell Lance not to worry. It's the end of the race. I could easily pass him, but tell him like, don't worry about like don't crash. Like
I got you, little bro.
Yeah. Yeah, take your one time beating me of the season. But I mean his bad weekend came down to like quality. I think he went on the gravel a little bit. I think that messed up his next lap. And I think, when he was finished with Q3, he was at P4. And even the announcers were like, that's not a good enough time to stay where he is. Like he's gonna get bumped down quite a bit. And he did. And I think he still he was scoring like 75% of the team points before the weekend. And so I assume it's probably around there. One bad race isn't going to really make you like question who's the better driver here. But yeah, weekend, not to completely forget for Aston Martin, because I think they, anytime that Lance can score points and Fernando can also score points like he normally does, it's a good weekend. But overall, not up to the standards. Definitely not up to what they're going to have to do to catch the Mercedes, who were double podium this weekend.
Yeah. I also thought during quals, I thought it was very interesting. First, I think everyone was a bit confused when Alonso went off and then they red flagged all 20 cars. And they're like, dude, what's going on? Why is this a red flag? I guess it was just a ton of gravel on the track, which I guess that makes sense. It's just very rare to see them red flag. And it was a quick red flag. No one beached. Everyone was fine. And it was just like, that's weird. All 20 cars are coming in for this situation.
Yeah, it was even the commentators were like, and we're not really sure why there's a red flag here. Yeah.
I know like things seem a little meek. I feel like for Aston Martin with Mercedes doing well, them kind of struggling the last couple of races. I saw some Fernando quotes about their upcoming upgrades. So it's upgrade season. He says, and I quote, in Canada, we crush them, talking about the competitors. So I think he says they are coming in with some major upgrades. He said, like, these are the real deal. Like all this stuff of Mercedes coming back, all these good things. He's like, this is where we start pushing ourselves again as the number 2 team. It was almost enough where it's like, hey, we're going to be there close to Red Bull, which for how much they've copied Red Bull, it doesn't surprise me. So I'm very excited to see what this upgrade talk. I'm going to be probably pleasantly disappointed. But this was like saying in Canada, we crush them and then I think he said like, in Silverstone, we'll do the same. Like it was back-to-back weekends. We're going to come in and we're going to fuck shit up. And I was like, damn, you get some like pretty high confidence on these upgrades.
Yeah, you never see that of somebody like calling their shot. It's always the other way where they're like, "Oh, the car's going to be bad," and
like,
so
we hope this helps the car. It's not like, hey, we already have a good car. This car is going to make it a super car.
Yeah, awfully confident coming out of him for not. He probably doesn't even know what the upgrades are yet. He's seen it.
Someone told me. Someone told me. All right, yeah. Moving on to Mercedes, 152 points, so 33 points scored this weekend. Good amount over double than Aston Martin's. Lewis Hamilton, P4 to P2, driver of the day. George Russell, P12 to P3, probably runner-up driver of the day, I would assume. So yes, like we said, very small sample size of like a little bit last week, but mainly this week, like new number 2, and the car looks clearly to be the second best at this moment. Their pace was just way better than Aston, which was a bit of surprise. George passed Alonso pretty easily with the same set of tires early in the race, lap 7. So there wasn't like he was on, old set. There was not like issues with one car that made it understandable that George was going to pass him. And then we saw it in one lap later, Lewis do the same thing with Stroll in lap 8. So just like very comparable situations for these drivers, both teams, and passed them with pretty good ease. And then in lap 28, Lewis passed Sainz pretty easily as well to get second with a fresher set of tires. Like we said, Sainz was just managing his set and seeing how long he could go with those. And then just like we said, just not much later, George does the same. So, and then we had George Russell reporting that there might have been a little bit of rain going on the race. And then just to find out that he was just profusely sweating. So that just shows he's putting 110% into this car. Can't even focus on, if this is rain or he's just sweating his nuts off. So good for him for putting in that. And like I said, just a well-deserved driver of the day for Lewis. I could have honestly seen it go to George, moving up 9 spots as well. Overall, I don't think you can ask for a better weekend than the Mercedes had.
No, I mean, that's as good as they're going to get, especially with Checo kind of like out of the picture. So yeah, they capitalized. They did what they needed to. And I feel like these are going to be like the crucial points of the season where, like, yeah, you get a double podium, you walk away with 33 points when, Aston, who's chasing you, is only 14 points. Like, it's going to be a difference maker. But something that's not going to make a difference is Red Bull just walking away with this championship. So our P1 in the Constructor Championship with Red Bull walking away with 38 points. God, that's a lot of points for Checo getting out in Q2. 38 points from this weekend, 287 points total for the season. Max Verstappen, pole to victory, P1 to P1. Sergio Perez, P11 to P4, just getting just outside of the podium there, not being able to catch George at the last part of the race. Max dominated this whole race. I mean, no two ways about it. There was a winning margin of 24 seconds. The second race in a row that Red Bull has led every single lap. It wasn't even close. And somebody was like, I think, yeah, it was Lewis following him behind, 18 seconds like behind him. Max was like, hey, what's the fastest lap right now? The garage told him, was like, hey, no need to worry about fastest lap. Like, let's just kind of like bring it home between the lines. And then he immediately was like, okay, went quiet, put in the fastest lap, like kept it between the lines. And like, it was just the biggest, like, flop your balls on the table. Like, this is how good I could be. But yeah, even with kind of like pulling back and not really like unleashing the entire force of the car, the dude was just unstoppable. So that's just what we got to get used to. Perez is another story, only made it up to fourth. Again, chasing George, just ran out of time. It's been dead. Like, I think after Monaco, like, it was pretty dead, but his championship hopes are dead unless you ask him. To which he said, like, in a post-race interview, like, yeah, like, my championship, like, I still want to win the championship this year. He's like, I still could do it. And I think I saw the stat. Oh, I have a bunch of Red Bull stats. Let me pull those up. First Red Bull stat is, in the next 7 races, if Checo wins the next 7 in a row, provided that Verstappen gets P2, Verstappen will still be leading. So it's going to take Checo 8 wins in a row. If Max gets P2 behind him, 53 points ahead of Sergio. Red Bull have won 15 of the last 21 Grand Prix. That kind of sucks to hear out loud. Not great for like the people who shit on the sport, saying that it's pretty predictable, I'd say.
Yeah.
Tough.
I don't know how you can spin that a little bit.
Red Bull has more wins than any other team has podiums. So Red Bull has a total of 7 wins, and Aston Martin has the most podiums behind Red Bull with 5. So another tough one to hear out loud. And then finally, this was on a positive note, 40 wins for Max in Formula One. So good for him. 40 wins, old number 40, almost catching Alonso's age. That'll be a fun race.
Yeah, I also saw that I think he moved up to 5th or 4th on most laps led in Formula One history as well.
Yeah.
So he's just crushing through records, dude.
How old is he again? Remind me how old?
Is he 24?
I think older than 25. So he's 25. So realistically, even if he goes to Lewis age, we got to deal with this for another 12 years.
Yeah. Jesus Christ.
Yay.
Yeah. Nice. At least Lewis, there was only 8 max of him, and like some of them were very close, at least,
True.
Yeah. Oh, the good old days.
Yeah. give us the Lewis dominance. Tired of this. All right. There's a race recap. Very fun race in Barcelona. Let's move on to our least favorite sector, our race predictions recap. No points from me. Marco, go ahead.
I actually wasn't too bad this weekend. Race winner, Max, fastest lap, Max, and a wild card prediction. Aston Martin not in the top 5 for the first time this year. Hit that as well. So I got 3. I'm up to 15 points to Ian's 4. Yep.
What are you going to do?
What are you going to do, dude? There's nothing you can do about that.
It's too hard. Everything's too hard.
Yeah, dude. I do like how we did very different wild cards. Both Aston's in the podium, to mine not even in the top 5.
Yeah. In retrospect, really stupid.
Wasn't the I said Ferrari not in the top 5, and you said no, dude. That's cheating. I would have lost that.
That's true.
That's crazy, dude.
It's true.
Should have listened.
Okay, that was Barcelona. Fun weekend. We have where are we going next? It's 2 weeks from now.
Is it Canada?
We are going to Canada, Montreal.
Yeah, I think it goes Canada, then Austria, then Silverstone.
Silverstone. Wait, so Fernando Alonso said we're going to beat you in Canada and Silverstone, but not Austria, maybe?
Yeah, I don't know. This is where we're docking,
Dude, gambling on Fernando Alonso, DNF.
Taking exactly what he said. Yeah.
Okay, everybody. Appreciate you listening as always. We'll see you before Canada. See ya.
Yeah, that's what I see.
What?
See your Orsos.
Okay. Didn't know what you're doing there.
Hey, thought you could leave without saying goodbye.
I used to say I lived my life a quarter mile at a time. And I think that's why we were brothers. Because you did too.